Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and we are so glad you guys are here. It's the Bleav in Bears podcast. We are the Blitz, Marshall Harris, Clay Harbor, Gabe Ramirez, and today we're going to talk about all the cuts the Chicago Bears made and find out if, in fact, they made a few mistakes. But now we get to start our podcast off the way we always do. I call it Truth Be Told. This is an opportunity for all of us to kind of argue with each other. It seems like that's what happens at the beginning of these podcasts. All right, I'm going to go first. Mine is based off the roster that is in place in the present. And I'm going to say, truth be told, DeAndre Swift will repeat as a Pro Bowler as a member of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to say the cop-out answer is the jury's still out on that, but I'm going to say he is because they're going to lean on the run game. This is what I can tell you. They didn't pay him $24 million over 3 years not to use him. Caleb Williams, a rookie quarterback's best friend in the NFL, that would be a running game. And I think they have to depend on him. And it's not just him out of the backfield on handoffs. I think he's going to be used in a variety of ways to give a little bit of an insurance tag to one Caleb Williams. And I think the Bears and their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, this is what he is here for. So I think it's a beautiful setup for Caleb Williams. And I think DeAndre Swift is going to be a huge benefactor from it.
Surprisingly, I'm with Marshall. I'm with Gabe here. I think that you guys are correct. I watched every single game of DeAndre Swift last year because I was working with Inside the Birds podcast network. So I had to watch all the Eagles games. This dude is legit. I've never been more impressed. You know, you never know what to think when you hear a guy you haven't really watched him. And watching him last year, he was big. He was strong. Obviously, we know he's elusive. He can catch the ball. Then going to training camp this year, it feels like he got even better. He's a guy they line up outside. He's a guy that can line up in the slot. They move him around a lot. He creates mismatches. Linebackers just can't guard him one-on-one. And as a running back, you get a ton of matchups with linebackers, and Caleb Williams knows how to pick matchups. That's something that he's really good at. So I agree with Gabe and Marshall. I think that DeAndre Swift can be and will be a Pro Bowl back this year.
Here I was thinking I was making some bold statement like, oh, man, DeAndre Swift, he's back at it, So, and then you guys agree with me, makes it no fun. But I think, for all the reasons you guys just said, I just think, I've been watching Bears football for so long. And whenever we've had a good running back, teams just put 8 in the box, right? Just kind of destroy you and dare your quarterback to throw the ball. That is not going to be the case for this offense, right? They have weapons up top. So DeAndre Swift is going to have a lot of man coverage, a lot of space to work in. And if he can stay healthy, he certainly is going to be a guy that could repeat as that Pro Bowler. All right, Harris, what you got?
Truth be told, Velus Jones Jr. will not be on the final 53-man roster.
Oh, that hurts. That's a lie. That's a lie. I told you guys this. I tried to tell anyone that would listen, Velus Jones Jr. was going to make this team. He's just too talented. I said Kari Blasingame was not going to make the 53-man roster because he's someone that could go through the waivers and make it, and that's exactly what is going on right now. But I think Velus Jones, guys, it's clear as day, man. I've been talking to my dad, and I said, Pops, do you want a 5th-round rookie from North Dakota State to be your running back or your 4th running back or your 5th, 6th wide receiver? Or do you want Velus Jones Jr., someone that can actually be a weapon for you? And Velus Jones, we know it. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. And you got to give credit to Shane Waldron, who made that adjustment early, to where they can still be beneficial. It can still be beneficial to the Chicago Bears. And him being on the team now will, in fact, mean that he will be on the team once the season starts. Why are you throwing shade, Marshall? Why you hate Velus Jones Jr., bro?
All right, first things first, Marshall. I'm with you. Secondly, Gabe, stop hating on North Dakota State, man, because I was in that conference. The conference I played in, the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Here's the thing, Gabe. Velus Jones was lucky. Dante Pettis doesn't go to IR. I think Dante Pettis gets that final spot. December Webster, if he's not IR, I think both of those guys outplay Velus Jones this year. So
you got to be healthy, Clay. You got to be healthy.
But if you have those two players, agreed. But if you do have those two players, Dante Pettis outplayed him in the preseason. He outplayed him in training camp. That position, if he doesn't get injured, was Dante Pettis' position. Couldn't argue that. 2 touchdowns, was making plays in preseason, making plays during training camp. So to me, he kind of got a little bit lucky. And that leads me to my truth be told, this is a playoff roster.
Ooh.
Looking at the final 53.
Let's go.
This is a playoff roster. Okay, they did some things on the defensive line, bringing in a couple guys. I mean, not big-time players, but veterans that you can put in as stopgaps, defensive end, and as 3 techniques. So those were my 2 biggest worries, right? If the offensive line stays healthy, now Larry Borum is starting on IR. I don't think I'm ready for Kieran. Somebody help me out with his last name.
Abengaje.
Yeah, is ready to play. The guy didn't have much training camp, didn't have any preseason. So you got to stay healthy in the O-line. But this brings me back to flashbacks, PTSD, when we were thinking N'Keal Harry was going to be a big-time receiver. We were thinking Byron Pringle was about to have a big year. We were just – the roster is so much better now. It is unbelievable. And this is what a playoff team looks like.
Marshall, playoffs.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I would have agreed with this a week ago before they made the 2 quick trades to help shore up that defensive line. But I got to tell you, I Bleav in the Bears defense before they made those trades. Now I'm just more, sunk into the ground with it. Like, I think that they have something cooking here. And as long as Caleb Williams develops at a gradual rate, a successful rate, as long as they can get through the first half of the season with a 500 record, it's all right there in front of them. Knowing that there's division opponents aren't until the back half of the season, and you're going to be at your best, you would hope, unless, injuries notwithstanding. I do Bleav this team can make the playoffs. A lot of teams make the playoffs in the NFL. This isn't your big brother's NFL. This isn't your dad's NFL. A lot of teams make the playoffs. 14 of the 32 teams. We're approaching NBA and NHL levels of percentage of teams in the league that make the NFL. Why can't the Bears be one of those teams, knowing what we know about their defense and knowing that their offense should be much improved and much more consistent, even with some rookies in some key positions?
When you're looking at 10 wins for the Chicago Bears and what that looks like in the NFC, you're looking at teams that made it last year. We talked about them last week, right? The Buccaneers, the Rams. Bears can certainly be that team of 2024 if all things hold true, right? The defense is operating at a high level. If Caleb Williams is progressing week in and week out and remaining healthy, right? He's still a small guy. So we got to hope that he stays healthy, throughout the season, because obviously a lot of that is depending on that. But this Bears team certainly can be a playoff team. I'm not just doing I'm sure my fandom is pouring out and all ours is pouring out. Well, yours is too, Marshall, because you said they're going to make the playoffs. So don't worry about that. But the fact remains that they are going to try to make it in the present with what they have in place. And that then allows us to talk about the offensive side of the ball. I
just want to point out, mine is based just purely logic. Yours is based on fandom, and then you're trying to mix in some facts along the way.
You could call it whatever you want, but the common denominator is that the Bears are going to the playoffs. So I think we agree on that. Yeah. All right, offensive side of the ball, guys. Caleb Williams and Tyson Bagent. No Rippon, no Reed. They get cut. Only carrying 4 running backs, which obviously Velus Jones can slide into as being a 5th if need be. Allegedly. Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, Mercedes Lewis on the tight end side. They keep 10 offensive linemen and 6 receivers: DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Titus Scott, Velus Jones, and DeAndre Carter. All right, offensive side of the ball. Surprises, and it's so funny because you think about a team and the talent that they have, but then once you see the roster, and you're like, oh, that's your depth. That's the team that you have that's right in front of you. Thoughts on this Chicago Bears offense, fellas?
Listen, I'm going to start with the offensive line because that is my concern. When I look at this team overall, I'm as concerned, if not more concerned, about the offensive line as I am about the defensive line. I want you to really think about what I just said. I'm the dude that's been beating the drum. Go get some help getting after the quarterback for the last 2 seasons, right, combined. But this offensive line, as Clay mentioned, with no Larry Borum to start the season, and just not knowing necessarily how good that unit is going to work cohesively. And I think that's my biggest thing. Also, when I really looked at the 53-man roster, Clay, you tell me, our resident tight end, this is as good a tight end group as I've seen around the league in terms of the balance of guys in their prime, veteran, and then guys who can get it done with Gerald Everett are also added to that.
I got to talk. When you bring up the concerns on, is it because you have little concern when you say that you have the same amount of concern on offense on defense? Because the defensive line is going to be good, right? And the offensive line, we talk about continuity. The only true piece that's going to be different is the center, right? Everyone else was there last year on this team playing offensive line for the Bears.
Hey, what's the most important position on the line? If you have a bad one, you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
that'd be center.
Left tackle.
I'm gonna say center just because you can have a great left tackle and a great right tackle, but if your center is subpar, that your whole interior is going to collapse.
Right.
Play back on this.
I think the left tackle is the most important position. You're protecting the blind side of your quarterback, man.
No, I got blind side, but if you don't have a good center, if your center is subpar,
the center's important, but the tackles are the two most important. Then I would go center after that. And it's a tough position to play depending on the type of calls you're playing. But let's be real. This offense is going to run through Caleb Williams. The buck stops there, right? He's got to have a good season. He's got to be able to move the ball consistently. Obviously, we want to start off with a strong running game. I'm curious to see in game-time situations how many carries Swift gets opposed to Herbert, Johnson. I remember last week, Gabe said, truth be told, Travis Homer is going to be the first running back cut. Travis Homer is on the 53-man roster, just to throw that out there.
Wait, I want to use your argument. If Dante Pettis was healthy, then Travis Homer wouldn't be.
Homer would have been the guy instead of Velus Jones.
Homer goes. Okay.
But then obviously we've said it how many times with the weapons. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, we loved what we saw from Tyler Scott. The last preseason game coming in with 7 catches. Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, great tight end room. The tight end room has been interesting because as you watch through training camp and the games, it's not a 1-2 situation. It's not a number 1 and a number 2. It's a per play, per formation rotation. Gerald Everett is getting time with the ones. Cole Kmet is not the 1, and Gerald Everett is not the 2. They're splitting time. So if you're a fantasy football player out there, be careful of that because it's going to be a big split in these pass plays, and you're going to see a little bit more of Everett than I think you're ready for. But the offensive line is a huge, huge issue here. If the guys stay healthy, I think they can be successful. But what has Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins showed us? They can't stay healthy. And then even Braxton Jones has had some injury problems. Darnell Wright played through him, but he's had some injury problems. And early in the season, when your swing tackle's out, you got guys like Matt Pryor, Kieran Abagaji trying to back up your tackle. If Kieran Abagaji's playing against a big-time pass rusher in a game, your whole game plan is out the window. Right. I'm sorry. You're going to have to move Mercedes Lewis to tackle, who I think he could do it, but he's going to have to sit there as a second tackle, and you're going to have to change some things up until you are ready for Larry Borum, a guy that's shown that he can get the job done consistently. Swing tackle is a very important position in this game. And then obviously Bates and Shelton. Let's see how they do. Nate Davis, he's starting against his former team this year, the Tennessee Titans. So he should have a little bit added incentive to play against them. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think they got players. I don't think they got a ton of depth, and we'll see how that goes.
Again, for me, the cohesion, like that's when you say they don't have a ton of depth. It's because a bunch of different guys have been playing a bunch of different positions next to a bunch of different guys.
Yeah,
I just want to see the cohesion as a unit.
Yeah, Marshall, let me ask you this before we go to defensive side of the ball. Tyler Scott, we haven't talked enough about him, right? He's making this team. He's there. Do you have faith in a guy like him to come down with the ball consistently throughout the season? Before we move on,
I think I do, but time will tell. It's I have more faith in him doing it than Velus Jones Jr., and that's why he's in the position that he's in. So I like Tyler Scott as a deep threat. I just think they have so many good guys in the receiver room ahead of him. Like Rome Odunze can be that guy. DJ Moore has proven he can be that guy.
What do you guys see Velus doing? That's my thing. You're not going to put him back on kick returns.
That is my point.
He's not doing punt returns. He's not doing kick returns. I don't see him getting
have like a small package for him. Have like a small 4 to 6 plays that he can just kind of get busy.
He's muffed kick returns. So in the preseason, he's muffed them in training camp. If he gets put there, if he gets put back on kick returns,
he's not going to get back there.
And he drops a kick return, that is even his fault.
Right. Well, maybe on the
Jr. What are those cars called? Or vehicles called with the 2 wheels in the front and the one wheel in the back, and they don't have a roof, and you drive around in the summertime. He's a vanity project to me. That's what he is. And as you said, Clay, how are they going to use him? 4 to 6 plays where you could just be doing other stuff with other guys who have proven that they can make things happen with the football.
But the thing is this, but the 53rd, I mean, if we're going to stay here, right? Like if the 53rd man on the team, if we're talking about it being somebody, what are they going to do? If it's Dante Pettis, if it's Travis Homer, whoever that 53rd man is taking the place of Velus Jones.
Make a catch.
In what? In a 5 wide receiver package? I'm just saying, like whoever.
Kick return, he can catch.
You're right.
And if somebody goes down, he's a receiver you can put in there, and he's not going to
depend on.
Light the world on fire.
Marshall's saying it right. It's not even that they can do it because Velus can do it. It's but can you depend on Velus to do it? And I think that's the biggest issue.
Velus can't. Velus has not shown that he can do that consistently. And if you continue to put a guy out there that has shown you who he is, and I think he's a big athletic guy, super explosive, he is not to be relied on.
How many carries do you think he's going to get game 1? How many carries running
0,
back?
hopefully.
Maybe 2. I mean, dude,
he's going to get some. He's going to get some.
Herbert, DeAndre Swift, like, come on, man.
I'm just saying, Velus is going to get somewhere. All right, we got to move on. We got to talk about the defensive side quickly. Obviously, pretty much everyone knew who was going to be there, including the newest additions, Chris Williams and Darrell Taylor. Clay Taylor. Talk to me about a guy that moves from a 3-4 to 4-3 and then is allowed to just rush the passer as opposed to being responsible for coverage and for, stopping the run consistently.
I think it's good. I think he's a guy that's shown that he can get sacks, and in watching some of his film, you can see, he's a tough guy. He's 6'4", 270 pounds, long arms. To me, those are the guys I hated to block. The guys, he can tie his shoes standing up. That's how long this guy's arms are. So he's a guy that has been consistent in this league, getting at least 6.5 sacks, 9.5 sacks, 5.5 sacks. And he's a guy that has played in a lot of games. You look at his first 3 years, 16 games, 17 games. So you can rely on him. He's not going to do anything crazy, but if you continually give him one-on-one matchups, he will get back to the quarterback. He will be a guy that'll get there. I can't say that about DeMarcus Walker. DeMarcus Walker is a jack of all trades. You can move him inside. You can play 3, play 5. You even put him out there at the 9. Austin Booker is a madman. He's super athletic. He can spin. I love his spin move, but he is raw. He's still trying to figure things out. I like this move because a guy you can consistently rely on if you're just chip and sweat and rolling and sliding the offensive protection to sweat every play. This guy will eventually hit home and get you a couple sacks throughout the year. Some big-time plays. So I love it.
Marshall, a lot of people thought Reddy Stewart was going to make the team. You saw Greg Stroman, obviously, on the back end of that. Obviously, defensive backs, Bears feel strongly about them. What do you think about the decisions that were made there?
No, I like all the decisions that are made. Like Stroman, for one, is just the odd man out in a very talented, arguably the most talented room that they have right now in terms of when you look at individual position. That's secondary. I'm expecting big things. Because of the way the linebacking core kind of came together and coalesce at the end of last season, I think these turnovers are going to be real. The turnovers and the takeaways, I look to see them as one of the top 10, if not top 5 teams at taking the football away. We saw in the preseason, we've talked about it, how regardless of it, first string, second string, guys just trying to make the roster or hoping to get invited back to the practice squad, the intensity on defense never let up. I'm really interested to see who the Bears put on this 16-man practice squad and to see if they can retain some of their own talent, and curious to see who they pick up from around the league in terms of guys who've been cut, undrafted free agents, guys that they have tape on now. But I really do believe in this defense. That's why I said it's so important, because you talk about like coverage sacks and everything else like that. I'm not looking at it from the issue of, hey, can the defensive line put a little bit of pressure? I just know if they can get that initial pressure, they can force bad decisions from quarterbacks, and the back 7 are going to be ready to go.
You brought up a valid point, though. This isn't the final roster.
Right.
I've seen it every year I've been in the league. The guys that they make the roster, but then a couple days later, guess what happens? You're bringing in a new set of guys. 2 of these guys are going to be gone. But I wanted to get your guys' take on one of those more surprising, I think, keeps was like Daniel Hardy, Jacob Martin. Martin not playing that much. Hardy, just a guy that had a really good camp, really good preseason, but a guy that not a lot of people know about. And then I wanted to say this, that I wasn't a big Elijah Hicks fan last year, and I thought the guy was, he was toast, man. He was Marshall back playing high school football. He was Gabe back in the day, man. This guy was just big ball toast, man.
I was definitely toast in high school football, I will not lie.
Elijah Hicks improved a lot. Jonathan Owens this offseason impressed me. He's not just a Bone Biles husband.
No,
he's a guy that can play. He's quick. He can hit. He's got an attitude to him. He's got some swag. He's a guy that's not scared to go up in the box. He can cover. I really like the defensive backfield, and not just Byard, who I thought had a solid preseason as well, solid training camp, who I was a little bit concerned with after he came in from Tennessee to Philly. He had a down year, but that Philly defense when they went to Matt Patricia last year was just nobody could have played well. Ed Reed could have been in his prime out there and not had a good year. Mm-hmm. So I didn't hold that against Byard. He looked good, but thoughts on those two defensive ends that made it in the near the end of the roster?
Yeah, I think Daniel Hardy deserved it, and I love moments like that, right? That's what training camp is for, so that way, you can prove that you belong and that you're better than some of the guys on the team, and then the coaches reward you with that roster spot. Did you have any issue with it, Marshall? I'm sure you didn't. Daniel Hardy was great.
All the decisions that were made, especially after I found out Dante Pettis was like hurt. I was like, okay, I can live with this. Like that's really my biggest thing with Velus Jones Jr., as has been documented many times. But other than that,
DeAndre Carter too
for the end. What'd you say?
Deion, we didn't talk about it during offense, but DeAndre Carter too. We're talking about is he the punt kick returner?
He's the punt returner. That's exactly
all he's doing. The Troy Taylor last year. Okay.
All right. Well, we didn't get much to special teams, but it now leads us to our final five. Last few minutes with the pod. Wrap it up with some final thoughts. Don't forget to you can add us. Then we did have a question, and I didn't get a chance to read it to you. I don't want to do it, but it was about what grade we give Ryan Poles after at the start of year 3 as he sits right here. We'll do that on the next pod, but you can always add us. Make sure you follow us on social media. I'm Chicago_Gabe. Marshall, what's your social media handle?
M Harris on air. If you find it, you should be out here looking for anything because I'm hard to find. But it's M Harris on air on all platforms.
Clay
Harbs 82, baby. Marshall knows why it's 82.
I can't even deal with this. All right. Make sure you follow us and make sure you add us if you have any questions that you want us to answer. But when this final 5 minutes, usually we do, our matchups and our predictions. But Clay, I want you to tell us about, these last couple of weeks. I know it was shorter when you were back in the league back in the day, the time between the last preseason game and the start of the season. But this time here, what are teams going through? What are they doing? How are they, tightening things up and making things better, preparing themselves for the season?
Yeah, so this is a fluid situation right now, and that's what I told you guys before, is a lot of these guys think, oh, wow, I made the final 53-man roster. But after everybody gets released, you see who's on waiver wires. There's some big names out there still. There's some guys, I got a couple written down here that I was shocked to see that were some big-name guys. Tim Patrick got released. Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt, backup quarterbacks. Lewis Kine, I don't know how you say his last name. Kadarius Toney, Noah Brown, receivers. So there's some guys out there that are going to get some jobs that can play in the NFL, and they're going to take some guys' jobs. So we'll have to come back and do this in a couple days and really talk about the actual 53-man roster and see what happens there. But as a player, interesting time of the year. You're losing some of your teammates. You're trying to stay focused on the game ahead of you. Back in the day, you had a game the next week. So for me, I've been released final cuts. I've got picked up the next day when the Eagles released me. Okay, you go into the waiver wire on Sunday. The final cut day was Saturday. Sunday, your waiver wire. Monday, you find out where you're going, and you fly there, and you're ready for practice on Wednesday after a crash course in a playbook on Tuesday. So it's a wild time for these guys, but it's an opportunity, and that's how these guys got to treat it. It's an opportunity to reinvent yourself. For some reason, it didn't work out in the place you were before, but you take the time, you focus, you go out there, and you get an opportunity to show that you do belong on a team. And just use that as motivation.
Yeah, Marshall.
Preseason is cute, but as far as opportunities go, the only ones I care about are the next 17 games. Now, close the book on this. Obviously, when the final 53-man roster is announced as early as later this week or early next week, and we can just look to football. Tennessee Titans on deck.
Well, Marshall, you talked a lot about your worries with the offensive defensive line, right? That that can't necessarily change in 2 weeks in terms of, I mean, you can bring in people, but what can the Bears be doing in your eyes to try to tighten this thing and make it the cleanest it could possibly be heading into week 1?
Sometimes you just have to get the reps, and that's practice reps and that's game reps. And for Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and some of these other guys, it's game reps. They got to play the game. I think Bears fans should be very grateful that they're starting against a Titans team that's been so for the better part of a decade now. Just take advantage of what's on the schedule to start. It's not like they're starting with, who did they start with last year? Was that the Packers? Oh, yeah, it was the Packers. That's part of what that is. So take advantage of the matchups as they come, and you can only beat the people who are on the field with you. So that's the opportunity they need to be focused on right now. I'm not worried about anything else but seeing Caleb Williams develop. That's the number one thing.
Mayonnaise man, Will Levis, man. This guy's doing mayonnaise commercials. You can't lose with a guy that's doing mayonnaise commercials. Come on, you got to win this game.
That's right. All right, next time you guys will be able to hear us Friday, correct, gentlemen? Is that right? Thursday or Friday?
I think we're aiming to have a podcast up and running, ready to go for that Friday commute.
Yeah, for that Friday commute. All right, so make sure you follow us, Bleav in Bears. Man, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll get some guests on here eventually, right, guys? Just not right now. Right now, we're the Bears in the preseason. We're tightening things up. We're getting our reps in so that way we can get ready for you guys. All right. Again, man, appreciate you guys for listening. Until next time, it's the Bleav in Bears podcast. We are the Blitz, Marshall Harris, Clay Harbor, and myself, Gabe Ramirez. Have a good one, guys.